Hello, this is Freethought Forum, a program by the Atheist Society of Knoxville and the Rationalists of East Tennessee. I am Jonas Holdeman.
And I'm Larry Rhodes, and we want you to know that if you don't believe in God, you're not alone. Right here in East Tennessee, you can find free-thinking atheists and agnostics. This is a show for them and people curious about living a life free of supernatural beliefs.
Today, we're going to discuss the National Day of Prayer, the National Day of Reason, and we hope to challenge faith-based initiatives.
This is a call-in show. While we go over a few announcements, we invite you to start calling in the show anytime on the number on the screen, 215-2288. Get a pen and paper, and we'll give you our email address later in the show. Happy Hour with the Atheist Society of Knoxville at Barley's. It will be tonight after the show for food, drink, and conversation. Any atheist or atheist-friendly person is welcome to come down and join us. You can find us by looking for the silver-jacketed copy of The God Delusion standing upright on the table.
Activities of the Rationalists of East Tennessee. The book club will meet May 8th. The topic is Irreligion. A mathematician explains why arguments for God just don't add up. Coming up soon, the annual public lecture, May 15th, 2 p.m., Rob Boston, Senior Policy Analyst at Americans United for Separation of Church and State, will speak on church-state separation, the challenges and opportunities ahead. Visit our websites for additional details, including time and location.
And you can see the website addresses at the top of the screen.
In the news, viewers, last week, Freethought Forum reported the Texas governor's prayers for rain. We must comment on the difference in worldview that we have with the governor.
We don't believe that magic controls the weather. We do believe that the weather is and we do not believe that the weather is a reward or punishment system for the devotion to deities. Weather is natural. We want to say that we are, of course, saddened by the drought situation in Texas and wherever else they occur, and the recent deaths in the American Southeast due to the violent weather there. But we stand firm in our belief that with respect to weather, there's nothing fails like prayer. We believe that hands that help are better than lips that pray. We therefore urge all of our viewers to make contributions to the Red Cross. Many of our members know from our experience volunteering with the Knoxville Red Cross after past natural disasters. They make a difference. Contact them by NoxARC, that's American Red Cross, noxarc.org, or call them 584-2999.
Oh, with regard to that rain business, I believe it was Solomon who said rain falls equally on the just and the unjust.
It does.
We want to mention the essay contest for free-thinking students. Freedom from Religion Foundation has 3 categories with scholarship prizes up to $2,000 in each.
The topic for the college-bound high school senior are: describe a moment that made you proud to be a free thinker.
Maybe you had a moment, experience, epiphany that led to or affirmed your rejection of religion. Maybe you stood up for free thought or spoke out against the encroachment of religion at school, school social events, in government, in classroom instruction, or in your family. Use that moment to illustrate why you are a free thinker.
And you can visit FFRF, which is the Freedom from Religion Foundation, at ffrf.org, and navigate to Outreach and Events, and then the link Student Scholarship Essay Contest to see the topics for other categories.
If you will be out in in the Oakland, California area, May 21st to 33rd, you might want to attend the Rapture Party. We do not know where yet, but we think we should have a Rapture Party here.
Mm-hmm. We noticed on their website, the Oakland, California area website for the Rapture Party, that they will be having some cool guests, including Matt Dillahunty, who co-hosts the Atheist Experience of Texas show that inspires us. Also, Brian Dalton, who plays the omniscient Mr. Deity, a funny parody of the trying life of the creator of the universe. It is pretty funny.
Oh, today's topic is the National Day of Prayer, the National Day of Reason, and we hope to challenge faith initiatives.
We are taking calls now at the number on the screen. There's about a 7-second delay in the broadcast, so once you call, please mute your television and listen to us over the phone, or we will all be confused. Amused, but confused. The outline for today's show will be the history of the National Day of Prayer and the objection of a Day of Reason website, and Day of Reason celebrations, the FFRF court challenge to the North Dakota, the National Day of Prayer, sorry, it got it abbreviated, and Nothing Fails Like Prayer challenge.
Larry, National Day of Prayer and National Day of Reason occurring at the same time. What gives there?
I believe the National Day of Reason was a response to the National Day of Prayer announcement by the president, dedicating a whole day to religion, basically, which is a definite violation of the church and state wall of separation.
I looked at Wikipedia recently, and I looked up National Day of Prayer, and there were 6 pages of information. I looked up National Day of Reason, and there were about 3 inches there.
A consortium of leaders about the day, this is about the National Day of Reason, a consortium of leaders from within the community of reason endorsed the idea of a National Day of Reason. This observance is held in parallel with the National Day of Prayer on the first Thursday in May each year. The goal of this effort is to celebrate reason, a concept all Americans can support, and to raise public awareness about the persistent threat to religious liberty posed by the government intrusion into the private sphere of worship. It's co-sponsored by the American Humanist Association and the Washington Area Secular Humanist Association.
So why do we oppose the National Day of Prayer? The National Day of Prayer, first point, violates the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution because it asks federal and local government entities to set aside tax dollar-supported time and space to engage in religious ceremonies. This results in unconstitutional governmental support of religion or
over no religion.
Over no religion.
It's led by fundamentalist Christian Shirley Dobson. The National Day of Prayer Task Force promoted thousands of events specifically in accordance with the Judeo-Christian belief system and focused on a small segment of Protestant Christianity. Since they hold their events on the government-sponsored National Day of Prayer, government officials of all levels participate in these events as if they were government-endorsed.
The Supreme Court has made it clear, and most Americans agree, that state-sponsored prayer in school is inappropriately exclusionary. Why is a nationally sponsored day of prayer any more inclusive? This national effort geared towards a small slice of the religious spectrum is clearly outside the boundaries of proper governmental reach.
And notice that we're not mentioning that prayer is bad in school. I mean, we don't believe in prayer, but it's government-sponsored prayer in school. It's a violation of the separation of church and state. There will always be prayer in school as long as there are tests in school. But it's when teachers stand up in front of the class as a representative of the government and tell you to pray to a particular God or a particular religion, that means the government is giving special endorsement to that particular religion, and in effect outlawing others by saying that this is the correct one and the others aren't. It's not really outlawing, but it is shunning and putting them off to the side, not giving approval.
The National Day of Prayer makes those who don't pray feel like second-class citizens. Why set aside a national day that needlessly excludes?
And some of these teachers do violate the law even more by specifically addressing prayers to Jesus or the God of Yahweh or something, and that does exclude a lot of people who do pray. They pray to different gods or different deities or different religious constructs. Religious Americans who wish to pray, don't need to be reminded by the government to do so. There's no reason to limit prayer to a single day for those who choose to practice their chosen faith in that way. Government has no business saying when or what Americans should do when they engage in religious practice.
Government also violates the First Amendment with the National Day of Prayer by acting to promote certain manifestations of religion. It emphasizes only one form of religious practice and therefore discriminates against many others,
Right.
including almsgiving, social justice, fasting, peace activism, and meditation.
Many traditional religious groups encourage adherents not to make their prayer public. So this state-sponsored public display of prayer is a direct affront to such teachings and disrespects countless religious Americans. Many Americans faithfully follow the words of the Sermon on the Mount. When you pray, don't do it loudly in the synagogue or on the street corners so that everyone can see you and think that you are really good and holy.
Whenever the government involves itself in religious practice, as is done with the National Day of Prayer, it taints the religious practice by reducing the co-opted religion's effectiveness to protest government action. And also, in an infeasible effort to broaden the practice's appeal, government inappropriately dilutes the messages of faithful adherents.
Mm-hmm. The freedom of expression and worship, including the opportunity to pray or not pray as we see fit, is already present without government endorsements. Why do they need the government to endorse their religion? There is no need to set aside a public day of prayer.
Well, the City of New Orleans City Council, among many others, declares May 6th, 2010 a citywide
That's when they started it. And
yeah.
It was May 6th last year. This year it's May 5th, I believe.
Yes.
My birthday is May 6th, so I enjoyed that. Nice that they made the Day of Reason my birthday. The Day of Reason also exists to inspire a secular community to be visible and active on this day, to set the right example of how to effect positive change. Local organizations might use the Day of Reason to label their events, or they might choose labels such as Day of Action, Day of Service, Rational Day of Care. The important message is to provide a positive, useful, constitutional alternative to the exclusionary National Day of Prayer. There's several reasons. Two hands working can do more than 1,000 clasped in prayer. To pray is also to Ambrose Bierce, I like this one, is to ask the laws of the universe to be annulled on behalf of a single petitioner confessedly unworthy.
So, among things that have happened, the FRF, Freedom from Religion Foundation, sued in 2010 and won a ruling against the National Day of Prayer. However, an appeals court later ruled no standing. Now, if you look at Judge Barbara Crabb's statements on that, it shows a very careful, thoughtful process at arriving at her conclusions. And the appeals court just ignored all of that and said, oh, well, they didn't have a right to sue in the first place.
Yeah. Disappointingly, President Obama announced on April 22nd that he will appeal the ruling. We're talking about the ruling that she brought forward. The religious right backlash had begun. The religious right groups were fundraising and raising a ruckus to protest the ruling. This is Crabb's ruling that was eventually overturned. The National Day of Prayer Task Force has hijacked the National Day of Prayer as an evangelical Christian event. The Alliance Defense Fund, a theocratic legal group working closely with the task force, which has a whopping $32.7 million annual budget, has shamelessly raised more funds to fight against FFRF. A bipartisan group of House lawmakers has denounced the decision, meaning they're pandering to their base. Many public officials, including President Obama, are planning to observe the National Day of Prayer. What do you do? We can urge viewers to write the contact the White House if they want to support this National Day of Reason or help strike down the National Day of Prayer. You have that information there?
Oh, let's see. It says, please express your disappointment, civilly, of course, over the fact that the Obama administration is defending a McCarthy-era law Entangling Religion and Government. You can contact the Honorable Barack Obama, the White House, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue Northwest, Washington, D.C., 20500, or go to the website www.whitehouse.gov/contact. The White House also has a comment line, 202-456-1111. The switchboard there is 202-546-1414, and there's a fax number, 202-456-2461.
You can help FFRF defend the ruling. Thomas Paine wrote, "Those who expect to reap the blessings of freedom must undergo the fatigue of supporting it. Don't let the wealthy religious right win this battle by default. Fight back. Please help FFRF not only defend this court decision with your donation to their legal fund, but help FFRF, the Freedom from Religion Foundation, win this conflict in the court of public opinion."
So, I see you're just getting to what I was going to comment on. Go ahead.
That's fine. Go ahead with your comment.
Well, I was just going to comment that first we have the judge's ruling, and then the appeals court of a group of 3 of the appeals court ruled against the standing of the FFRF, their right to sue.
Mm-hmm.
But now the FFRF has asked for a hearing before the entire court instead of just 3 members to consider this issue of their standing. I see you have some information there.
This is dated April 14th. This is last month. The Freedom from Religion Foundation to seek an en banc rehearing on the National Day of Prayer ruling in the 7th Court. A panel of U.S. Court of Appeals of the 7th Circuit Court in Chicago ruled 3-0 that the Freedom from Religion Foundation and its plaintiffs do not have standing to continue their historic challenge of the 1952 Congressional Act declaring a National Day of Prayer, requiring the President to issue a proclamation exhorting citizens to pray. They immediately announced that FFRF did, that it will seek a hearing in the entire 7th Circuit, in other words, an en banc review. The appeals court overturned the district court's strong ruling in favor of FFRF's challenge, which is FFRF versus Obama, of all things, by the U.S. District Judge Crabb in 2010. Crabb ruled that the National Day of Prayer was, as enacted by Congress, was unconstitutional. In this instance, the government was taking sides on a matter that must be left to individual conscience. Crabb added that the same law that prohibits the government from declaring a National Day of Prayer also prohibits it from declaring a National Day of Blasphemy, which we don't want them to do either. Did you have something else on this topic that you wanted to mention?
Well, I guess I would like to defend President Obama just a little bit there, because after all, he's the first president that I know of who has recognized that there are a portion of the citizenry that may have no religious beliefs. Now, I think this problem really rose in the late Bush administration and instigated by the National Day of Prayer Task Force. Now, this was a group that has really been promoting this from the evangelical perspective, and has created the atmosphere in which we now have to deal.
Mm-hmm. They, of course, can say, see, the government thinks that prayer is good, therefore they think that God exists, that Christianity is correct, that we should all follow Jesus, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the government really has no place in this. It's a secular government founded on a secular constitution. And we're here trying to talk about why we should not allow this type of encroachment into our laws. The National Day of Prayer was enacted in 1952 at the behest of Billy Graham and modified at the behest of Christian evangelists in 1988. The law orders the President to set aside the first Thursday in May every year as a national day of prayer, on which people of the United States may turn to God in prayer and meditation in churches. Can't they do that without government support? Don't they do that every Sunday? I don't understand why they have to have the government telling them that it's okay or that they should. Congress and the President of the United States have no business telling me or any other citizen to pray. To turn to God to prayer at church is much less setting aside an entire day for prayer every year, even when telling me what to pray about, said Gaylor. This is Ann Gaylor, the Foundation, Freedom from Religion Foundation co-president, Ann Gaylor. She said that she and Dan Barker, who co-directs it, are two of 6 FFRF officers or board members who are on the individual complaints in this historic lawsuit. We wish them the best.
Now, do we get to the prayer challenge yet, or do you have something?
Sure. We can do that. Do you have that handy?
Yes. Okay. We have here the Freethought Forum TV Prayer Challenge. This is courtesy of Faithless Forest. Mm-hmm. It is our observation that Christians do not really pray for worthwhile or important things. Why? It is as if they are afraid to do so for fear of confirming the truth. Nothing fails like prayer. Mm-hmm. I made the remark that if something is highly improbable, you say it doesn't have a prayer of a chance. Mm-hmm. If the Bible be true, prayer can do anything. We challenge you to make a worthwhile prayer, not just the little ones, which you know can come true by a little God, mm-hmm. or without divine intervention. We challenge you to a big prayer for a big God. Do you think Jehovah is big enough as a God? Congress has declared May 5th, 2011 as National Day of Prayer. We challenge you to pray on that day, this is Thursday now, that all of the men and women injured in the service of our nation have their limbs restored, their hearing and vision returned to them, their post-traumatic stress calmed and made no more. If you're a patriot, this would be your prayer. If on May 5th this would happen, then Faithless says, I would be convinced.
I would be convinced too.
Jehovah.
I too. Doesn't the Bible say wherever two or more are gathered in my name? Certainly more than 2 people would be gathered at any particular time on the National Day of Prayer, May 5th this year. So let's have y'all mention at least our currently serving and past serving members of the military who have lost limbs or sight, have PTS. Let's heal those if we can. I mean, that's doesn't seem like it would be much of a thing to ask for an omniscient and an omnipresent, powerful God,
and morally perfect, of course.
Right.
Of course, the problem with many of these prayers is that they come in conflict. What one person might pray for their own good would serve to the disadvantage of others. Mm-hmm. For instance, praying for rain, if that were granted, then may take the water from some other place that also needed the rain.
But you would think that he'd be able to create it here and create it there as well, without having to borrow from Peter to pay Paul in a matter like that. I've heard people say that prayer is a type of witchcraft. You're actually calling upon a supernatural being to do your bidding here in the natural world, which is a kind of a definition for witchcraft. And if you would like to disagree with me, the number is on the screen, number 215-2288. Call them, be more than happy to discuss these with you. There's another saying that says, give a man a fish and you'll feed him for a day. Give him religion and he'll starve to death while praying for a fish. That's the way we feel about prayer.
Oh, when I was courting and was first married, my wife was a member. She was raised in the Eastern Orthodox Church. And so I went to the services with her, and every Sunday the priest would get up there and pray for different people, and then pray for the king, I won't say which king, and pray for the President of the United States. Now the king had been deposed, and the president at that time was John F. Kennedy, and we see what happened to him.
Mm-hmm. In that case, don't pray for me. There's a comedian out there, his name is Emo Phillips. He's not as popular as he used to be. Some of you will remember his name. But he has a thing, he says, when I was a kid, I used to pray every night for a new bicycle. But then I realized that the Lord doesn't work that way. So I stole one and asked him to forgive me. The tenets of forgiveness there.
Yeah, easier to get forgiveness than to get permission.
Well, that's the way that works in the Bible. The tenet of forgiveness is okay. I mean, if you wrong me, or if I wrong you, and I asked you for forgiveness, I would like to get it, and in order to make peace between us, you might give me forgiveness. But if I hurt you, and then I go over to James or John or Peter over here and say, forgive me, or ask Jesus to forgive me, or go to church and ask Jesus to forgive me, it doesn't help you a bit, does it? And that's the thing. It's also like pushing your responsibility off on Jesus. Saying Jesus paid for all my sins, I don't have to worry about it anymore. It's the tenets of that particular type of thing that upsets me. The way that Christianity and other religions, not the only one, find a scapegoat for their sin. Of course, we don't even believe in sin, so that's none of them. We do believe in harm. You can't harm your neighbor, but you cannot sin against him, because sin is a religious concept that is sold to you by your church, when they will then sell you the cure for it. Dan Barker used to have a saying about that. He said, well, would you buy a bandage from a man who comes up to you and cuts you in order to sell you a bandage? Well, that's what religion does for you. It comes to you and tells you that you're a sinner in order to sell you the cure for that sin, which is kind of handy.
Is it time for our mid-program break here?
Sure is, coming right up to it.
Okay, in case you're just tuning in, this is Freethought Forum, a program by the Atheist Society of Knoxville and the Rationalists of East Tennessee. Freethought Forum is funded jointly by the Atheist Society of Knoxville and the Rationalists of East Tennessee, and individual contributions. We would like to thank MK for her support. MK, I think I know MK, a very brilliant, friendly, beautiful person. I think I've asked her to appear on this program from time to time, and she always refused because she was afraid of
the repercussions
it would have, not on her, but the people around her. Okay, you can send us feedback at the email address on your screen, but do not wait. This is a call-in show, and we are live today.
And you can call us at 215-2288, and we're here to talk to your questions. I don't have a copy.
Okay.
The Atheist Society of Knoxville, excuse me, we're sharing documents here, meets several times during the week. We have evening meetups for fun, food, and drink, and you can visit the Ask website on the screen eventually, and to join to find times and locations. Like I mentioned earlier, we're going to go down to Barley's Tap Room and Pizzeria in the Old City after the show tonight. And any atheists or atheist-friendly people would be more than welcome to join us. Please don't come down to preach, proselytize, provoke, or punch. Thank you, Matt Dillahunty, for that. Jonas.
The Rationalists of East Tennessee has Sunday activities involving lively presentation and discussion of subjects and topics that are timeless, such as what every atheist should know about the Bible, what is art, the evolutionary history of flowers, and the thinking rationally about climate change. Once a month we get together for a book club. Past books we have read include The God Delusion, The American Age of Unreason, The Virtue of Selfishness, Wither Socialism, and Your Inner Fish. And the Rationalist East Tennessee also supports Camp Quest of the Smokies. It's a fun science camp, summer camp for summer school adventure. Visit the website on your screen or email us for more information. Now, we know that during the summer there are many vacation Bible schools and just all over the place. But this is the one place that is kind of opposite to that. That is, we have no axe to grind, and
no religion to sell.
And children are encouraged to think for themselves, to think critically, rationally, to reason, but at the same time having fun with activities, outdoor activities like hiking and canoeing and arts and crafts and so on. Right now we are having registration, and I must say we've had a bunch of registrations for new campers from Georgia, Alabama,
really?
And Tennessee.
If you said anything about thinking in this camp, it wouldn't be what to think, but how to think. It would give them maybe some rational thinking skills or critical thinking skills, rather than telling your children what to think. That would help them make up their own minds on what the promises and statements that they hear in the world today were correct or factual.
Yeah, and these children are often hounded at school for their religious beliefs and or not non-religious beliefs, right. And they end up being denied or having to make the choice between freedom of speech and maybe having friends to associate with. And so many of them comment when they come to camp that they really enjoy being with others like themselves.
In the Atheist Society of Knoxville, we have members. We have like 300 members now. And it's amazing how many of them will only talk about religion and their feelings about religion at the meetings, because they can't talk about it any other place, work, home, wherever. It's really a shame that they can't even express themselves to the people that they love the most.
Yeah, and I certainly agree with that, Larry. So,
getting back to the topic of prayer, is that where you're going? I was just going to say that atheists feel like, and this is another anonymous quote, praying is like a rocking chair. It'll give you something to do, but it won't get you anywhere. And the opposite side of prayer is the danger of thinking that you can actually hear from God. A lot of people say, I pray to God and He talks to me or He tells me things. The problem with hearing from God, not only is it classified medically as schizophrenia, but any suggestion that you hear from a source like this would be unrefusable. You would absolutely feel compelled to obey it. If you're a religious sort and it comes into your mind that the thoughts that you're having is put there by God, which so many people do nowadays, the results are legion. Look up Andrea Yates, or Deanna Laney, or Dina Schlosser, or the bus killer, the Greyhound bus killer, Vincent Wejang Lee. He thought he thought that God wanted him to kill the person on a bus, and he got on a bus, and he kept listening to the voice, and he ended up not only killing but cutting the head off of a fellow passenger on a Greyhound bus. Many of these women that I mentioned killed their children because they thought that God wanted them to, and in one case she was sacrificing her son to God. If you hear so many people I talk to about this, and they say, if I hear a voice that tells me to kill my children, it's not God. God would never ask me to do this. But of course in the Bible He does. he asks Abraham, and his response is an immediate, "Yes, sir." And he rides off to do it, or walks off to do it.
Yeah, I have a semi-personal experience with that.
Mm-hmm.
I had a cousin living in Texas, and she was killed by her own son. And he said that the reason for it was that she was possessed by the devil.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And again, what we were talking about earlier, like earlier last week or week before, was that if you believe, it's not enough that you believe in God. Christians would tell you that you also have to believe in the rest of the book. And in the book, you have to believe in demons and witches and the devil and supernatural powers, predictions, just everything. I mean, think of all the magical things and creatures that exist in the Bible. And this particular person thought that demons were real and thought his mother was inhabited by one, and he had to kill her. This is where the kind of thing that religious teaching will take you.
Or at least, if the religious teachings don't take you there, at least they provide a reason,
a platform to support it.
For people to to justify some of these things that they are doing.
Yeah. One thing that gets me in particular is that the first thing religious people will do to somebody if they're having problems in their life is give them the Bible. Now, if that particular problem is mental illness, and let this person is schizophrenic or he's off kilter, whatever you want to call it, the last thing you want to do is give him a book on demonology. I mean, this is what the Bible is. They'll open it up, and you are standing there telling him that every word in this Bible is true. This is not the direction you want to send this person. But of course, I understand you think that you're doing him good, a good thing, but you may very well be doing him harm. Again, this is a call-in show, 215-2288. We're open for your calls. We still have another 25 minutes or so. And I'm more happy to talk to you about any of these topics that we're working with. Did you have something there you wanted to bring up?
I guess I could make some comments about Judge Barbara Crabb, some things associated with her ruling. Sure. As we recall, she voted in or ruled in favor of the Freedom from Religion Foundation, but then was overruled by a portion of the appeals court. Let's see. Justice Crabb stated about those supporting the federal law designating the National Day of Prayer, adopting the defendant's view of standing would allow the government to have unrestrained authority to demean members of any religious group without legal consequences. Now, this is the federal judge talking. The federal government could declare the National Day, as you mentioned earlier, of anti-Semitism, or declare Christianity to be official religion of the United States. But no one would have the standing to sue, because no one would pass the
muster that they have set for a standing.
Yeah. And
okay, we have a call. If you can take it, you can get back to that. You're on the air. My name is Larry. Do you have a name or a nickname we can go by?
Faye.
Faith?
Faye.
Faye. Okay, nice to meet you. Do you have a question or comment?
My comment is sort of in agreement with yours. I also don't like the idea of the government sponsoring a day of prayer. But the other comment I want to make is that in my own family, there are two cases where prayer didn't help at all. My sister had cancer, and there were several hundred people in different churches praying for her. And she died early she still had children in high school and college. And then her daughter had even more people praying for her when she had cancer, and her children were still in grade school and junior high at the time that she died, or the time she got cancer, and she died 5 years later. Well,
I'm very sorry.
I don't pray, and it seems that in my family, just about everyone except me has had cancer. Those who survived were the ones who went to a doctor, and the cancer was found early, and that seemed to have much more to do with surviving. I must say that in the case of my niece, however, it was a very aggressive cancer, and finding it early didn't help.
Well, I'm very sorry to hear about your losses. I know it must have been devastating. So many times we hear of like people who are rescued by the diligent work of the many different rescue agencies involved. Helicopters are brought in, medical teams, and they bring these people out, and the first thing they do is drop on their knees and thank God that he got them out, and totally ignore the people that worked for it.
I can understand that because it's a very emotional time for them, but you're right. Without the help of the other human beings, they would not have survived.
Right, they would have stayed in the cave. There's a saying. It says, I read it earlier: 2 hands working do more than 1,000 clasped in prayer. If your family and friends who were had been praying for her had maybe gathered up some money to help her attain the treatments that they needed, there may have been a different outcome to that.
No, they had.
You never know.
They had good treatment, except that some of them had started much too late because they wouldn't go to a doctor in time. Didn't think they really had anything seriously wrong until it was too late. Well, that was all I wanted to comment on, and
okay. Thank you.
Sorry to bring the mood down.
I appreciate it.
Bye.
There's a video on YouTube I'd like to recommend. It's the power of prayer. I think it shows in great detail how you could pray to a milk carton, and the answers would be the same as the preacher would tell you. The answer is yes, no, or wait, and it doesn't matter what happens after you pray to the milk carton. You're going to either get what you want, you're not going to get it, or you won't get it for a long time. And it's the same. No matter what you pray to. What's his name? George Carlin used to say he used to pray to the sun, and he'd get the same results as if when he was a religious person when he was younger. Yes, no, or wait. Einstein got a letter from a young person, a child, asking them if scientists pray. This is in 1936. Einstein wrote back, "Scientific research is based on the idea that everything that takes place is determined by laws of nature, and therefore this holds the action of people. This holds for the action of people. For this reason, a research scientist will hardly be inclined to believe that events could be influenced by prayer, i.e. by a wish addressed to a supernatural being." So that's one of the many quotes you'll find from Albert Einstein showing you that he was not a believer. Did you want to get back into your article now?
Well, I guess there was a point that was reached here saying that you might have all of these other benefits associated with the day of prayer, but as far as the government is concerned, what secular benefit do you get from this?
Right. That goes back to the Lemon test. I'm wondering if I can remember it offhand, that every law, I mean, this is like the Supreme Court upheld this back, I don't know, 50s, 60s, it was maybe even 80s, I don't remember, but it says, a law to be valid must have a secular purpose, cannot be used for advancing religion. And there was another point, I can't remember what it is. Maybe a caller will call in and tell us. But that was the main thing. It must have a secular purpose. And this religion, day of prayer, does not have a secular purpose, and it does advance religion, so it fails on 2 points anyway.
But I kind of have compassion for the president when he's and many other people in the public area who are expected, and in order to hold their job, they have to show some deference to religion, so that, for instance, Obama might make a proclamation of a National Day of Prayer, but he's pretty much stuck. If he or many other politicians, if they try to avoid getting involved in these religious entanglements, then they become a target of people who are just trying to bring them down. I've often thought of some of this attacks on public figures as hunting an elephant. That is, when you shoot an elephant, what have you accomplished?
Right.
Except you brought down this big, magnificent animal. And I think that many of these attacks on public figures, those who are real statesmen, and that it's just that kind of phenomenon that.
Generally, when they do that, it's to promote themselves or bring themselves up.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a bully would do. He would knock you down to get more status for himself. Welcome to Freethought Forum. May we have your name or nickname?
Yeah, my name is Dennis.
Hello, Dennis. Did you have a comment or question?
Yes, sir. I wondered, how do you believe that we got here, sir? I mean, how do you believe that we are here today?
Well, I believe what science puts forward in the form of evolution.
Well, now isn't the first law of thermodynamics say that energy can neither be created nor destroyed?
Okay.
And so their theory is that there was a big bang.
Well, that has nothing to do with evolution.
Well, I mean, that's how everything started, sir, right?
Right, but it has nothing to do with evolution.
Okay. How did evolution start, sir?
Well, that is up for debate, but they have...
Exactly right. That's exactly right. And
just because it's up for debate doesn't mean that you have the correct answer.
Well, no, sir.
Even if we gave you all of evolution, said evolution is false, it doesn't work. It doesn't give your argument, I assume you're arguing for a God, doesn't give that argument any more credence.
I'm asking you a question.
Yes.
That's all I did.
Okay.
How do you think we got here?
I told you.
There has to be some engine that drives evolution.
I agree with you.
What started it?
I agree.
Okay.
What drives that engine?
Yeah.
That drives...
Yeah. Where did this engine come from?
Well, I don't have any idea.
I don't either, and that's where I am with the start of the Big Bang. We don't know what came before the Big Bang. The only reason, let me explain, or try to. The only reason we believe in the Big Bang is about back in the 1920s, we happened to notice that there are other galaxies other than ours. Through scientific research, we looked out into space with the biggest glasses we could find and saw that other galaxies existed, and that every one we saw was moving away from us and each other. The galaxy was expanding. So through reason, we realized that if we run the clock back, all of the galaxies would be closer and closer together.
Yes.
Now, that is the basis of the Big Bang Theory.
Yes, sir.
Now, that's all we really have. We can take mathematics. We can say mass. If you combine it this much, it's going to create a huge big black hole, or at least an singularity. But beyond that, we don't have any idea.
It goes. This is as far back as we can discern that something happened, and then the universe started expanding it.
I agree.
The word universe, do you happen to know what that word means?
It means it includes everything. It's everything that we know or
let me
see.
take the definition of it, sir.
Okay, sure.
From Latin. Uni means one, and the word verse means spoke. So the Big Bang, every time you say the word universe, you're saying one spoke.
Okay.
So the Big Bang was one spoke. And since the first law of thermodynamics states explicitly that energy can neither be created nor destroyed, that all of the energy in the world, including your energy, and including this television program and everything in the world, was created when one spoke, sir.
So you're saying God spoke?
That's exactly right.
Where did God come from, and what brought him into creation?
That I don't have those answers.
I don't. Okay, we can move it one step forward, so we can say I don't know where the universe came from.
The Big Bang, and you can come up with this Big Bang theory and claim that it's right.
I think we will.
I can claim that God spoke the universe into existence.
Yeah.
Same,
and we can support ours with scientific evidence.
Same amount of evidence.
Sir, I don't have a hold. I'm going to have to cut you off if you keep talking over the top of me.
Well, okay, you go ahead, sir, and explain to me where we came from. What started this evolutionary...
Did I not address that already? You're just going over the same area. If we keep doing that, I'm going to have to hang up again. I told you there's no reason to believe that anything existed before the Big Bang. And we have no idea, we don't know what came before the Big Bang. You claim to know, because in the ancient Latin times, they decided to call the universe one word.
Yeah, okay.
Now,
look at this logically then, sir. Then nothing blew up and created everything.
You're putting words in scientists' mouth that they do not enter.
No, you're saying nothing was there. You're saying we don't know. You don't know. There's nothing there.
He can hear me?
Please tell me. Please, sir. Please explain it to me.
I'm getting contradictory...
Well, because your theory is full of holes. Your theory is contradictory.
You don't know a thing about the theory. You're making statements.
Nothing cannot.
Goodbye, sir. Sir.
You've made.
He's on hold right now. Fuck it. Excuse my friends. We had a person just now who came on here and decided that he was going to give us the answer. He is obviously not a scientist, but he has read the Bible, and that's all he needs to promote his statement. And that's all it is. It's not a theory. It's a statement, a conjecture, a assertion that he knows where the universe came from, and that all the scientists in the world of all the different fields of study mean nothing. Well, and that, to me, that's kind of sad.
There are limitations at present in our knowledge, and through study and observation, we seek to fill in some of these gaps, and we believe that this is possible in many cases, that we can do this, and so just because there are gaps in our knowledge right now doesn't destroy the whole concept that we're trying to create.
Just because if you have a gap in your knowledge, you can't put a supernatural, omnipresent being in there and say, this guy exists and all this stuff is no good anymore. We have another caller. Welcome to Freethought Forum.
Yes. My name is Elisa.
Hi, Lisa.
Yes, and I have a question.
Okay.
I noticed that your topic today is National Day of Prayer. And I know that atheists don't believe that prayer is effective because, of course, you don't believe in God. But there have been people, including myself, for whom prayer has been effective.
How do you know that?
Excuse me?
How do you know it was prayer that brought the result that you acclaim prayer brought?
Could I interrupt?
Okay, I can give you a specific example, a very specific example. I was infertile for, I had one son, and then the doctors told me that my chances of getting pregnant were about as good as someone who was on the pill. And I had no fertility treatments whatsoever. I had 22-year gap between children, and the only thing I did prior to getting pregnant was I had a friend who was Muslim, and she tied a green ribbon around my wrist and said, you know, pray for anything that you would want, and this is a special prayer. So just because I don't believe in prayer myself, I said, okay, sure, I'll take you up on that bet. And I said, God, I would like to have another child. And I got pregnant. And doctors were shocked that I did at the age of 47.
Okay.
So I believed that prayer resulted in my having a child. Of course, I also had sex to have the child, but I believed that the prayer helped. So
it wasn't an immaculate conception, but did you want to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say there's a fallacious argument that says after this, therefore because of this, if I say it poorly, that afterwards you might find someone becoming pregnant, but then that was after prayers and bans and so on.
It was one prayer, one time.
But it doesn't mean that what happened was because of the bans and
right. It doesn't mean
so
that it's a cause of it. It does follow it, obviously, but it doesn't mean it's the cause of it. Now, your doctor said that you have about the same chance of getting pregnant as someone on the pill. People on the pill do get pregnant. It does happen. What I'm saying is that you're attributing to a supernatural source a natural process. And that to us is, I mean, if you maybe hadn't ever had sex and then you had a baby, then we could have another whole chapter to the Bible or something. But it's people have trouble having babies all the time, and they go to all different kinds of lengths to have them. And sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. It was just one of those things. It does. Things like this do happen naturally. Now, I can't keep you from believing that it was prayer, but this is also an anecdotal evidence, which is means nothing to a person who's not first person in this case. Mm-hmm. We have people telling us all the time that they've been abducted by aliens and probed and all that. You know, that's anecdotal evidence. We wouldn't believe them any more than some of the Bigfoot sightings or any of that. Right. So, but at the same time, you can understand why we wouldn't believe that. And at the same time, we don't believe in prayer, so we really don't think that it was the prayer that did it.
I think...
You're saying that regardless of whether or not the prayer had been said...
Yes, ma'am.
You think I would have gotten pregnant anyway?
Yeah.
See,
because it happened.
What we would do is take several women who were unable to conceive, and
you'd have to have a scientific
and have them
test,
do the same kind of prayers and
see if it yielded a result.
So on.
Now, there have been tests for this type of thing, and you remember, I don't remember who it was. There was heart patients. There were like 3,000 heart patients, and they divided them up. And one group, they told them that they would not be prayed for. Another one, they told them that they would be prayed for, and the third one, they didn't tell anything. And all these heart patients had to go through surgery. And when they came out of surgery, the group that had the most problems was the group who were told that they were going to be prayed for. Now, we can judge it any way we want to, but one of the things I was thinking is, or several of us have thought, that they felt more pressure to get better. And therefore, they had more anxiety.
Because it was a heart test.
Right.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. So.
And we're running out of time. We're down to 20 seconds. Yeah. We need to close off. But thank you very much for your call. I appreciate it.
Thank you. All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay. If you would like to send us feedback, please email us at freethoughtforum@yahoo.com. It's freethoughtforum@yahoo.com. You can call this station and purchase a DVD of this.